So, yeah, hello everyone. It's Patricia again. I'm a holistic intuitive practitioner, and today I'm here with Sofia Wilt. And Sofia Wilt is a certified functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. Thanks so much for joining me today. Hi, Sofia. Hi.
Hi, it's Aloha from Hawaii. It's good to be here with you,
Oh,
Patricia.
wonderful. Beautiful Hawaii. And yeah,
Yeah.
maybe we just start with when we were talking, just to tune in into the
Uh-huh.
session, you already shared that you got into functional nutrition because you were your own patient and no one could help you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I have my story is very similar to a lot of other people that do the kind of work that I do. So I was in my early 40s. I had been living a somewhat healthy lifestyle. There were some healthy things and there were some not some healthy things. And I was burning the candle at both ends. I was partying really hard and I was also really athletic. And there was different things in my life, mold exposure. I had toxic metals, different toxic exposures. I had some gut infections, all these things. I didn't know they were going on. And one day I hit the wall and my life changed completely. And I went from being active and, having a lot of get up and go and being able to work and do my life to being laying on the sofa and being like, what just happened? And I went to about, I think, five different doctors, and some of them were naturopaths on this island. And I've always figured if anything ever went sideways, health wise, you go to the professional. And I wasn't getting not only was I not getting the answers, I wasn't even getting anything to make me feel better. And being always having a curious mind and having some existing knowledge in health and wellness as a private chef, that's what I was doing. I just started researching. I
Hmm.
started just pulling threads and just digging and looking and looking. It took a long time. I won't say it took many months, a couple years before I started kind of honing in on what was wrong. And this is a good segue because the very first thing that actually helped me identify some of the imbalances that were going on was this test, hair tissue mineral analysis, and the
Okay.
nutritional balancing science of understanding minerals and how they, impact physiology.
Yeah.
And while there are all these other things going on, the thing that I can speak to is that minerals are so foundational.
Yeah.
Like you can take all the amino acids and essential fatty acids and vitamins
Yeah.
and all these things, but at the most basic foundational fundamental level, having your minerals in proper values and ratios to one another, because it's a
Yeah.
system, sets the stage for health or disease. And when I made this pretty significant correction with the help of this woman who does this, I went from being on the sofa to getting up and living my life again. And it
Wow.
was just, I mean, it was simple, but it was also fairly complex. I mean, the journey to get me to that place was substantial. But once
Yeah.
I did that, I went, oh my God. It was like someone had handed me an ancient code book. And you're like, oh my God, look at all these amazing interactions. Because it's not a part of the normal conversation in nutrition or even if you go to your doctor and ask them about selenium, they're not going to have anything, they don't know
Yeah.
anything about it.
Yeah.
So I went, oh my God, I can study this. You mean I could learn how to do this? So that was just a little bit about me and my journey and minerals. So then after I learned about hair tissue mineral analysis under Dr. Rick Malter, who's
Okay.
kind of the grandfather of mineral balancing, he's wonderful. It just really got me jazzed. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much more to learn. So then I became an FDN, the functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. And now I do a lot of different kinds of things from hormones and gut
Yeah.
health. And I mean, you name it. But everybody I work with gets a hair tissue mineral
Yeah.
analysis because
Yeah.
I find it's such an important part of our physiology. The practitioners that use it and get it because it's really nuanced. It's kind of
Yeah.
like if you have a problem with your car and you take it to the mechanic and they plug in their little device that reads codes and it
Yeah.
tells them what's going on with your car. Hair tissue mineral analysis for someone who understands the science,
Yeah.
it's the same kind of thing. It gives us these codes and this information from a totally different perspective. It's
Yeah.
not like blood work, it's not like any other lab, but
Yeah.
you can understand people's stress responses, their toxic burden, how their thyroid's working, how their adrenals are working, their blood sugar, cardiovascular. I mean, there's so much.
Wow.
And it's a really simple, it's a little bit of hair because you got to give blood. You got to
Yeah.
give urine. You got to give, something a lot more invasive
Yeah.
and also difficult to send in the mail because you got to send these samples
Yeah.
to labs.
Yeah.
Hair sample is very, very simple. It's very simple.
And
There's an
from
elegance to it, actually.
Yeah, and from what I understood, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm just diving into that topic. For me, this is all
Yeah.
news, and it totally makes sense to me. And it's just like, wow, why is everybody just popping vitamins and taking vitamins? And, minerals, people, everything they know is iron and magnesium. And
Right.
now I'm discovering this entire new world. And what I also find interesting about the hair tissue mineral analysis is that you get solid information because blood sample, this can vary so much from 1 hour to the other, even sometimes. Did I get that right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they've done tests where they have the same person, give a blood sample and then like 15 minutes later give another sample. And the tests come out pretty, there can be substantial differences in
Yeah.
that short period of time. You get about that much from the scalp, and that's going to be about a 3-month period of time. So it's not a snap. So blood is a transport medium. You take and you pull some blood out, and it's a snapshot in that moment, which is helpful. I'm not dismissing it. I like blood work, but hair analysis is picking up larger overall patterns and trends, kind of the way you might do an ice sample or the rings on a tree. It's a
Yeah.
longer, like you can get a longer history, sort
Yeah.
of, and picks
Yeah.
up patterns. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
It's so fascinating. And I mean, you already dipped into it a little bit, but why is mineralization such a crucial foundation for our health? And why are deficiencies so common today? I know it's a mean one because it's two questions in one.
No, it's okay. Well, the deficiency is I think most people intuitively kind of know this already, which is just we're poisoning the planet. That's part of it. The soil that has, where we are supposed to be getting our minerals. Plants grow in food. The food grows in the plant grows in the soil. The soil has the minerals, and then we eat those plants, or what we are eating ate those plants, and ideally we're getting all this nutrition from them. Years ago, we weren't guzzling supplements like we are now. We are guzzling supplements because the soils are so demineralized. This topsoil has been it's really one of the most precious commodities that this planet has in terms of being a life force, nurturance for everything that lives here. And we've just been demolishing it with industrial farming practices and all the different poisons that we like to spray on everything. Soil is not an inert substance. It's
Yeah.
got microorganisms, it's got mycelium from fungus, it's got, earthworms, it's got all this different interactive, and we have been basically, annihilating, Gaia with all these different poisons. So
Yeah. Yeah.
this living, quantum matrix that our food is supposed to come from has been denatured. So that's the sorry, that's the long-winded
Yeah.
answer to why we don't have as much mineral content in our food. And modern agriculture, industrial agriculture. So if you look at, like, let's just imagine like a couple hundred years ago, people that had farms and grew their own food and all that kind of stuff. They were spreading manure, they were taking their compost, they were putting things back into the soil, right?
Mm.
And it was this whole complex array of macro and micro minerals. And
Yeah.
there's tons of stuff, eggshells and all the things.
Yeah.
And now it comes down to three main, what is it? So NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. I should know this. Anyway, it's three main substances, and that's
Yeah.
sprayed on everything.
Yeah.
And then partner that with all the glyphosate,
Yeah.
which I would love to talk a little bit about that at some point, and how that's completely, you know, monkey wrench the whole other process. So
Yeah.
anyway, we're not building topsoil. The soil doesn't have the nutrients. We've kind of drained it of its life force energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why is mineralization so crucial for our health?
I think one of the things, like in mineral balancing communities, you'll hear the same thing said over and over, but it really does speak to how important they are. Minerals are spark plugs. They are spark plugs to facilitate thousands of biochemical processes in our bodies. And if you think of something as simple as a car, you know, rip out a couple spark plugs, the car's not going to work the same way. So they are, and we know we're electrical beings, right? We know that we are, you know, we are not just these, you know, bag of moving bones and blood. We are, you know, we have this electrical life force energy,
Yeah.
and minerals are in part what facilitate that.
Yeah.
So they're really, really, I mean, they're just critical.
Foundational.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's thanks for breaking it down so simply. And then here we are just popping vitamins, you know? And it's just,
Yeah.
I mean, even I knew a little bit about minerals, but I never paid really attention to them. And now I'm just like, what? This all makes so much sense. Why am I taking all these other supplements if I don't have the foundation? Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know you know about healing is voltage,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
So he talks a lot about, you know, the electrical potential of our cells. So we have, I've heard mixed numbers, but it's about 50 to 100 trillion cells in our body. And
yeah,
that's what we are made up of. And every single one of those cells has mineral requirements for them to facilitate their main role is energy production. So inside of this cell is the little mitochondria, which is the battery. And it needs
yeah,
sunlight, it needs amino acids, but it also needs key minerals.
yeah,
And if we're short on those, the production of ATP, which is our energy, you know, that I need to lift my hand or drive my car or write a letter or anything that I want to do, it's in short supply. So, you know, you find people that have, I mean, you can take people that have cancer, autoimmune diseases, depression, and you will see that they have a low voltage. You know, it depends on the, you know, there's going to be some nuances within that, but they have a low voltage.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And we touched already a little bit into it, but maybe we can break down now the several systems. For example, how do mineral imbalances affect our nervous system and the ability to handle stress?
Right. Just a lot of what I'm going to be talking about is coming from the framework of hair tissue mineral analysis and mineral balancing, because that's what but you know, there are people that aren't focused on this test or this science that can also talk about minerals. But to come back to that, it's so our nervous system, so our autonomic nervous system, right?
Yeah,
So that's the part of our nervous system that knows to manufacture, you know, estrogen or digestive secretions, or it's doing things beyond our thinking.
yeah,
Autonomic, it's happening. So the
yeah,
autonomic nervous system has two branches. It's got the fight or flight and the rest and digest.
yeah,
Okay. So fight or flight is sympathetic dominance, whereas rest and digest is parasympathetic dominance.
mm-hmm,
So those are two branches of the nervous system, basically. And on a hair test, you can see exactly what somebody is based on their mineral values. So the very first four minerals on a test are calcium, magnesium, sodium, and potassium. And while there are others, there's your selenium and your manganese and all these other ones that are really important. Those first four kind of, I like to call them the macro minerals, and they reflect the most about different processes in your body. So when
okay,
you see somebody, there's certain patterns that you're going to see. a high calcium to magnesium with lower sodium to potassium, that's a person in a more parasympathetic rest and digest state. Whereas somebody with a lower calcium to magnesium and higher sodium, lower calcium, magnesium, higher sodium to potassium, that's the person that's in that fight or flight stage. So the
Wow.
interesting thing is, when you understand that, you know that someone that's in a running, I call it the 5 alarm bell response to stress, that if you give them a little bit more calcium and magnesium, that's going to bring their nervous system more into balance,
Yeah.
and vice versa. So the other person might need a little bit more sodium, potassium to lift them up a little bit more. So that's just the nervous system component.
Wow. That's so fascinating. And it's,
And it's like strangely true every time. Like
yeah.
I've seen it so many times. And let's talk about stress for a minute, because stress is so many things, but a lot of times we just think, oh, I'm stressed out because the state of the world, or I'm stressed
Yeah.
out because, I have this important deadline. Those are true and those are important, but we also have biochemical stressors. So if you're walking around with Lyme disease or an oral infection,
Yeah.
guess what? That's a stress on your body. It's
Yeah.
consuming a tremendous amount of your resources and your immune system, even though you're not thinking this way, because again, this is happening beyond your thinking processes. Your
Mm.
body's at war.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
body's at war. And so
Yeah.
we can also have childhood traumas or stressors from a long time ago
Yeah.
that maybe haven't resolved, or we don't remember, or that are in the background running the show.
Yeah.
So there you can see people. In fact, so I mentioned that I studied with Dr. Rick Malter. He's a psychiatrist. So that was his initiation. He was working as a psychiatrist. He found this kind of work, and then he uses it. He sees it, all different health aspects as being equal, but his focus was kind of on the mental health aspect of it,
Yeah.
because so much of the way mineral patterns happen and the way our tissues hold them or excrete them will actually be reflected based on these stress patterns that we have.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
That's so
fascinating.
foundational. It's so fascinating. And also, again, I mean, it works on both ends, I believe. If you have a stress response, of course, you need to deal with the psychological aspects. But if you
Absolutely.
don't solve the nutritional, the mineral aspects of it, it works hand in hand together. You need to solve both, I believe,
You
right?
do. Yeah. And yeah, I couldn't agree more. I was literally just talking with somebody about this earlier today. Yeah, I think one of the things that I've seen personally and professionally is this, and especially with women, but it happens with anybody else, is people go from having whatever, the normal life, the health, and the things that they thought were normal, and then something happens and they're not feeling well. And they beat themselves up
Mm,
for being emotional or being
mm,
sad, or
mm.
or trying to, process something difficult that's come up. And I have to say, I think that it's probably right on time. Like, sorry, you didn't want it, but here you go. The body is ready to work through this. Also, that zinc deficiency or that copper toxicity that you have is part of what's driving this. There's so many things about our moods and cognition. Our brains are probably our most nutrient sensitive organ,
Okay.
and if you aren't giving it some of the fuels that it needs, you won't manufacture a good mood.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
see this a lot. I see people beat themselves up or kind of come down on themselves, that they're not, in the mental health space that they think they should be. And
Yeah.
it's like, you don't even have raw materials. So let's get you back, having those. I think you can't do one without the other. I
Yeah.
think any kind of healing journey, or there is a nutritional lifestyle, component, as well as the digging deep into finding out, the brain patterns, the traumas, and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to share a little bit more what other patterns you see in the HTMA, in the hair tissue mineral analysis? What?
Yeah, I just mentioned zinc and copper. I think that would be worth mentioning, and mental health issues. So coming back to my story, when so I was whatever I was in my early 40s, something like that. Yeah, I was in like my early 40s when this whole thing went down. So one of the things that I was dealing with was severe copper toxicity. Now, I had never heard of that. I didn't know what that meant, but I looked at my test and I could see that this copper value was super crazy high.
Mm.
Copper's a little bit like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. In the right context, wonderful. It does all these wonderful, important things for our nervous system, for our hormones. It helps keep it's essential for our iron metabolism. It does tons of things. But this modern phenomenon, because of birth control pills, because of copper pipes, copper IUDs, and a variety of other sources, women accumulate too much copper and it stores in their tissue. It's like they can't use it all. And the body stores in the tissue and it's highly inflammatory and actually can cause like legitimate psychosis.
Wow.
Copper also has an affinity with estrogen. So we've all heard of estrogen dominance, right? Estrogen dominance is also another modern phenomenon. I don't think our ancestors were dealing with it that much, where it has to do with the ratio of your estrogen to progesterone. And there's all these estrogen mimicking compounds in our environment, different industrial chemicals, skincare, you name it, that we're getting exposed to. So that it raises the estrogen and thus the copper. You find any reproductive cancer, uterine, breast, prostate, there's a copper toxicity component to it. So what keeps copper in balance is zinc. One of the many things.
Okay.
And so zinc is a worldwide deficiency. Most people don't get enough zinc in their diet. So you get women that have an estrogen imbalance, that are being exposed to chemicals, that are being put on birth control pills.
Yeah.
And they will go up a bit crazy, not like they will have mental health issues.
Yeah.
And they will be positioned to develop. I mean, the list I can send you. There's a man named Rick Fisher. He's a practitioner, and that's his life's work is on copper toxicity. His wife developed it, and she went crazy. And they took her to all these different doctors, and nobody could figure out why. When they finally found a practitioner that understood this, he was like, this is like one of the most important things I've ever found. And he made it his life's work to share this information, because it's so important. So, and then you take like a vegetarian diet, that's another one, because it's a zinc deficient diet, and they also get a lot of copper. And to clarify, there's good copper and there's bad copper. You need enough, right? But when it doesn't have the zinc and all these this thing called ceruloplasmin, which might get too complicated, to keep it in proper use and storage, then it becomes toxic. So if you see someone with copper toxicity on a test, you know that they're struggling with mental health issues. You know that they're probably really, really going through a hard time. And it takes a while to get it out of your system, but it's well worth it.
It's well worth it, so it seems like.
It's well worth it. Yeah. And again, it's one of those things where you'll find, you can just imagine this scenario, because it's really common. You have a young woman who wants to wait to have a baby. She gets put on birth control pills. She thinks she's doing the right thing to go on a mostly vegetarian diet. So she's not getting the zinc. She's not supplementing. She's not seeking nutritional consultation. And everything's fine for a while, and then suddenly things go sideways.
Catches up with
and
you.
She goes to her doctor, and they go, well, let's send you to a psychiatrist. We'll put you on an SSRI, which is,
if they go to a doctor.
If they go, but if they go to the doctor, but more than likely they're going to be put on like a Prozac type of something, and that's not going to certainly not getting to the root cause, and then all the other problems. So, and I've seen this a lot. I've seen this personally, and then also in forums and practitioners. We see it all the time.
And probably now it's also an inherited toxicity, because which generation are we now that has birth control pills? Yeah, I mean, they came on the market in 1969, so we are not the first women, right? So we already got the load
Yeah,
probably from.
I give you a lot of credit for putting that together. That's true. So there's been, you can inherit copper from your mother,
Yeah,
and that's something that they believe is driving this. So that
yeah.
we've been accumulating copper from our mothers. Also, just as a side note, the state of our mother's physical and mental health when we're in gestation can have play a huge role.
Mm.
I know actually my mother was copper toxic, and copper does rise actually during pregnancy. It's a really
Okay.
important nutrient. If you look at any pregnancy multivitamin, they're going to give you a lot of copper. You do need it. But again, if your body doesn't have the mechanisms to keep it properly metabolized,
Hmm.
it's probably going to get, the baby's going to get some of
Mm.
it. So
Mm.
yeah.
I mean, one thing I see a lot on social media and also in my environment, suddenly everybody's having ADHD, for example. Do you see
Uh-huh.
something there in the HTMA or with mineralization?
You know, I feel like I should have a really great answer for this, and I don't, but I I'm just gonna be honest. But I suspect if I looked into it, there would be a pattern. I mean, I don't know what it would be from, but here's something to consider too. You know, what I said earlier still applies, is our brain is such a nutrient sensitive organ. Also, so minerals and heavy metals like, you know, lead, cadmium, mercury, arsenic, aluminum, they have a very similar, they're almost like cousins, like one's the good
Okay.
guy and one's the bad guy. So
Okay.
they're very similar in their shape and size, let's say, in their energetic framework. And so
Okay.
sometimes you will have a heavy metal come in and occupy the receptor site that a
Okay.
mineral is supposed to be on. And
Yeah.
so so it prevents those enzymatic processes from happening. And that's all heavy metals want to do. They want to come in and they want to burrow deep into your tissue and hang out. They love the thyroid, they love the liver, they love the brain. So when coming back to ADHD, my guess, and I'm going to write a note to myself because I am curious about this.
That
I
would be
suspect that
interesting
there's probably a toxic metal thing because everybody's got toxic metal. There's nobody that doesn't have toxic metals anymore. You
Yeah,
just might not have as much as the next person. So I suspect that, you know, aluminum, mercury, etc., is probably a
something
driver for
like
that.
this
And I
is
think
going
there's
on.
also something to do with iron too, I want to say. Yeah.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
thank
but
you.
that was already
I feel
super.
like,
Sorry, I interrupted you
oh no, no. I just like I feel I'm like, oh, I feel like I should know what that is actually already. It might have a copper component to it.
as well. Yeah. Yeah, but
I'm gonna
already
look it up.
you sharing that they dock that the toxic minerals dock on the spaces where healthy ones should be. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Says a lot, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So and one thing, so this is kind of, I'm just go on a side note real quick about toxic metals. So again, they're pervasive in air, soil, water. We get them all the time from everywhere. One of your best defenses from getting heavy metals is to be nutritionally replete. So if you have robust mineral values,
Mm-hmm.
the heavy metals incoming don't have a place to go. And so
Mm-hmm.
your body's much more able to detoxify them.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, so it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So if you, I'm open to a lot of different things. If you go to most naturopaths, for example, and you go in and say, I tested myself, I found out that I have too much mercury or something like that. They're
Mm-hmm.
going to go, okay, let's do a chelation therapy. So they'll usually do like an EDTA chelation, which is like an IV where you get this substance. I can't remember what it stands for. It's a sulfur-based compound. Anyway, it pulls all the toxic metals out of the deep tissue where they like to store
Okay.
and escorts them out. But it also takes your minerals too.
Yeah.
So it has its place. I'm not discounting it. I know some people are really into it. I personally find a mineral balancing program, which is going to go longer and slow,
Okay.
is safer in the long run. And you're also looking at overall the balance, because it's not just like we're just going to get the mercury out. We're
Yeah.
also going to be saying, you know, the low thyroid and the low adrenals, and working to get those fortified.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, that's also fascinating, Sophia. Thanks so much for sharing all of this. We exchanged a few questions we could go over, and it seems like we already covered it through our segues in between, but you wanted to touch on glyphosate. But before we go down that one, maybe you can answer or you can give some advice for someone who wants to start supporting remineralization. What are your favorite first steps? I mean, I believe it's, of course, the HTMA probably. What else?
Yeah, it would be, you know, I would say if someone is really curious. And the nice thing too, I will say this, is that that test is actually one of the more affordable tests.
Oh, nice.
You know, a lot of tests can get pretty expensive, but you find the right person, you know, you get a good consultation and a good protocol. It's money well spent. Let's put it
Yeah.
that way. But yeah, so I would say, like, let's say someone's like, I don't have the money or means to do that right now. I just want to, like, oh my God, what do I do? Minerals. There's a few things. The first thing I'm going to say is probably a humic fulvic acid supplement. And I'm just a super big fan of, there's a few out there, products out there that I really like. My favorite, I'm not affiliated with this guy at all, is his name is Dr. Newsom, and he makes a product called Black Brew.
Okay.
And it's so cool. I just think it's the best thing. So I drink some of it every day.
Mm.
So you obviously know a thing about humic fulvic acid. Basically, it's like concentrated earth juice, you know,
Yeah.
is kind of what it is. And so it's in really strong balance of all the different minerals that you're going to need. It's not, nothing's in isolation. And it really is truly, you know, ancient decomposed earth,
Yeah.
you know, trees and biomass. The fulvic is the flavonoid, so it actually allows things to pass through the cell membrane. And the humic is something like a delivery man dropping a payload of minerals, and a
Mhm.
garbage man, because once it goes into the cell, humic acid changes polarity, which is
Okay.
unheard. Like, this is so fascinating that this happens. It goes
Yeah.
into the cell, it changes polarity, and then it goes, do you have any trash that you want me to take with me? And then it takes the trash out. So all these different mycotoxins, heavy metals, you know, waste products that the cell might be trying to excrete, it takes that with it. So
Wow.
you get mineral boost, and then the ushering in of the waste products. So I would say there's another product called The Gift that I think is great.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard of that, but that's by a company called Mother Earth Labs,
Okay.
and that's a really good one. There's a
Okay.
few others out there. Those are my two favorite. And then another thing I would recommend that probably would benefit most people is something called the adrenal cocktail. And you can
Hmm.
look that up online, super simple. So our adrenals have um, the main nutrients that our adrenals need are sodium, potassium, and vitamin C. And they need little hits of those throughout the day, not just like you would take a pill in the morning and you're done. Little bits throughout the day. So, like, one thing that I do, and again, there's a bunch of different recipes for this. You can search it online. I get like a quart-sized mason jar, fill it up half with, you know, quality filtered water, half coconut water,
Hmm.
a pinch of salt, like half a teaspoon or more of salt,
Oh, really?
good salt. Be careful, because there's microplastics in just about all of it anymore, right? So you get yourself some good quality salt and some vitamin C powder, or you could use fresh squeezed citrus juice if that works for you. Yeah. And then so that's something you can have throughout the day. So if you get a good quality mineral rich salt, you're getting some trace minerals in that. Another thing that's really interesting is a nettles infusion.
Mm.
And so nettles tea is, you know, it's pretty inexpensive, and it's got all these other great properties. It's got antihistamines and stuff like that. But there's a cold water infusion you can do. I think it's like a cup of nettles, pour filtered water over it in a mason jar, a quart-sized mason jar, leave it out on the counter overnight, and then it's a cold water infusion. And if
Okay.
the nutritional breakdown of that is remarkable. So
Oh,
you're getting lots of different, you're getting potassium and manganese and all the different trace minerals. So that's just like a really simple, easy, relatively inexpensive thing, and it's got some other benefits.
oh,
Yeah.
wow. Wow, thank you
Yeah.
so much for these. And do you want to still touch a little bit on glyphosate?
I would love to. Yeah. Okay, so glyphosate is just it's mind-blowing that it's still being used because the amount of lawsuits that have come forward and people being able to really easily prove that it's caused a variety of cancers, and that's just one thing that
Yeah,
it does. And so you look at, I think almost all domestic beer and wine have glyphosate in them, Cheerios and oats, and I mean, so and then that's good, and like personal care products that you put on your skin. It's in everything. They spray it in golf courses, on roadways, children's playgrounds. So there's this mechanism in nature that's really beautiful, and it's called the shikimate pathway. And so if you take different soil microorganisms, or you're taking bees or ants or different, social insects or social microorganisms, they have kind of what we call that hive mentality, right? So
yeah,
they're always sharing information with each other. They're like this big body that's always existing as this one unit, but
yeah,
they're always sharing resources and information with each other.
yeah,
So one of the things that the FDA allowed glyphosate to be approved by was that it destroys the shikimate pathway. So when you spray it on a plant, any of the pests on the plant suddenly lose their ability to communicate with their other. So
mm,
it just like disrupts that pattern, which I mean, you can kind of see like, okay, good job, scientists. That's interesting. Great. But what they didn't think of. So the FDA goes, great, we'll prove that because in nature, if that's a mechanism that this prevents the plant regrowing and the pest being, disrupted, fine. What they didn't realize is that as human beings, because we are only part human being, we are also trillions and trillions of cells worth of bacteria, fungi, and viruses,
yeah,
right? From our microbiome to our skin to our mouth to our, everything about us has bacteria that are doing all these amazing jobs for us.
yeah,
They have a shikimate pathway.
mm,
So all these microorganisms that we house, they're actually performing services for us.
yeah,
The glyphosate, aside from all the things that it does to leaky gut and, causing cancer and all those things, it's destroying our microbiome and
yeah,
our biome in general, the friendly microorganisms that we have that keep
yeah,
us healthy.
yeah,
So it's just awful stuff.
yeah,
But
awful stuff.
yeah, it's awful stuff. It really is.
And it's just mind blowing that it's still around, as you already said. It's like one of those things where we're just like, what else needs to happen, right? Yeah.
There's a picture that I saved. It's somewhere on my computer desktop, on my desktop, where this was a few years ago here in Hawaii. And there's like so there's a beach park and there's a roadway right past it. And so there's a county municipal truck, driving like 2 miles an hour, and the guy's on the back of it with a little sprayer spraying the weeds on the side of the road. Except that he's spraying it, and you can see he's spraying it right on this woman who's sitting on the beach on her towel. just like, just, they're just, just cruising by. He means to get the thing, but oh, she's in the way. Oh, whatever. And you just think, and she had no idea, no
Yeah.
idea. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Horrible stuff.
Yeah, it is. But minerals are one of your best ways to
Yeah.
protect your hormones, your hormones, your neurotransmitters, your gut function, your ability to create, endogenous antioxidants and all kinds of really cool things that we don't think about that much,
Yeah.
but they're imperative for our survival and our vitality. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Sophia, thank you so much for this little interview here and for breaking all this new world down for me. It's yeah, mind-blowing.
Sure.
Thank you so much. And I'll try to find all the links, all the products you mentioned, and of course I will also
Sure.
link your website sophiawilt.com so that people can
Great.
find you. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be great. Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
I had fun. It was great.
Yeah, thank you.